That isn't my problem.
Well, it sure as hell isn't my problem. Stop yelling at death!
Well, in this anatomy of an episode, we're jumping ahead very far across the series.
This is really bad.
The 7th season is rarely named as anyone's favourite, since 3 and 4 tend to be the most beloved among fans, and the previews in general get no shortage of nostalgia. It rarely draws the frustrated hate that goes towards 5, 6, and 8, even if I quite like 2 out of those. It seems to be the season that no one talks about. And when I was researching for my series-wide video, I remembered so little about it that I had to rewatch nearly every episode to properly work out my thoughts and feelings. And overall, I come down on the side favouring Season 7.
Then you, sweetheart, you are just plain mean.
Watch it.
It's not my favourite, but I find a lot to enjoy.
You can't, this isn't the way the story's supposed to end.
Trust me, it is.
In fact, many episodes I remember not liking or being indifferent to when I was a kid first watching the show, now I like and appreciate more as an adult, and this is one of them.
Life only has meaning specifically because there is an end.
Styx Feet Under is appropriately named, both for the expression 6 feet under, referring to being dead and buried, as well as a HBO series about a funeral home, and also the river Styx in Greek mythology, which the souls of the dead crossed to be taken to the underworld.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm a little scared too.
This episode is all about death, as the Angel of Death makes a return after 4 seasons when a badly thought out spell from Paige makes a deceased innocent unable to move on.
The problem is, I don't seem to be able to claim his soul yet, even though he's dead.
As the souls of the dead have to be collected in order, this creates a backlog of delayed flights to the afterlife, so the Angel of Death outsources and Piper is the unlucky candidate.
I'm not dead, I'm death.
There could be worse things than having Holly Marie Combs escort you to the hereafter.
I know. Bummer, huh?
But the sisters are also dealing with a half-human demon who didn't go to the same finishing school as Cole Turner, because he's trying to get rid of his human soul by killing all his blood relatives.
You are going to be a mother.
How did you know?
And now that the Halliwells have access to Death's list, they can see who will be next to die. When I started to rewatch Season 7, my first thought was damage control.
What are you doing here? Remembering what we're all about?
It might be just me, but I feel as though Season 6 had a disaffected quality to it.
You have some serious explaining to do, young man.
I know.
The show had reached its peak in Seasons 3 and 4, and even Season 5 had higher production values and a sense of fun and enjoyable ridiculousness that makes me not mind it as much as others. Season 6 had a very spinning its wheels vibe, with the uncertainty surrounding Chris's role, having to ride around Holly Marie Combs' pregnancy, and an overall lost feeling. Not to mention, this is where the characterization issues and continuity mistakes were most obvious.
You know you had to, right?
Season 7, however, feels like an attempt to bring Charmed back to its roots, with plenty of episodes resembling the procedural format of the first season.
So what's our next move?
6 Feet Under jumps out at me as an earnest attempt to create a sort of throwback Season 1 episode, with an interesting Demon of the Week, mild yet important progression of a story arc, and some significant character development for the sisters. Also, with a visual style I just feel like praising.
I'll be with you the whole way.
Nice cinematography all around, and I like the interpretation of the afterlife crossing sequences.
Where does that go? To where you're supposed to go.
But first, yay for continuity!
I'm the Angel of Death.
Simon Templeman returns as the Angel of Death, with the same look and same MO.
People have to die in order, according to my list. Otherwise, the cosmic balance is thrown off.
Even take note of this moment.
I knew your sister.
Phoebe and Piper don't recognize him, because in Death Takes a Halliwell it was only Prue who saw him.
You are the ultimate evil.
No, I'm not good or evil, I just am.
Kinda feels like the writers were apologizing for all the continuity mistakes and contrivances that Season 6 had utilized.
We don't get to decide who lives or dies. Only circumstances can change someone's fate.
Simon Templeman is a welcome presence whenever he appears, and he makes such an impression that you forget that the Angel of Death is only in 3 episodes.
This is unprecedented.
He's really kind of perfect in this role, and seems to have put a lot of effort into making the character work.
Life only has meaning specifically because there is an end.
He's ominous but not evil, neutral but not uncaring, stoic but not emotionless.
This has been quite a remarkable day. Even for me.
He provides a nice contrast to our Demon of the Week.
Give me an answer!
Well,
I'm human!
you want green eggs to go at that ham?
It's a choice.
Make another one.
But don't worry, you know who else is in this episode?
Just because we're demons doesn't mean we always have to be so ew.
Just tell me how to defeat them.
And you'll stop with the gross flesh peely talk?
I said this before, but the screen really does come alive whenever this lady appears.
You know, you'd think since your first threat failed so miserably, you'd be a little bit nicer to me.
I guess that's what happens when your name is literally Charisma.
Well, they are the charmed ones, and they're pretty good with the thwarting.
Kira doesn't have a huge role in this episode, and this is her second appearance.
Looks like the only threat to your son is you.
Previously, she was helping Leo, and now she's helping Cirque.
See, whenever someone knows the future, you can always get the drop on them by knowing the future too.
Reminding the audience that she is first and foremost a demon, which will come into play in her big episode down the line, giving the sisters good reason to not trust her.
Oh, so just because I can see the future, it must be my fault.
It's also quite narratively perfect that it's this character who helps facilitate an important development for Phoebe, but I'll get to that in a bit. Going back to the damage control nature of the season, and this episode specifically, the inciting incident addresses why the Charmed Ones don't go all out with the magical protection, which wasn't a question that would keep me up all night, but I appreciate the answer.
You see, I kind of cast a protection spell.
You cast a what?
Casting spells to protect innocents from harm, first of all, would fall under personal gain.
Heritage protection spells backfire. That's why we don't use them.
It's the sisters' job to protect the innocents themselves, and using magic to try and cheat the system will have unforeseen consequences, as seen when Arthur gets fireballed in the opening and ends up a Death Becomes Her cosplayer. And outside of the personal gain backfire, this episode is all about reinforcing the greater good and the grand design.
So to save your sister, you would threaten to stop all death.
You got it.
That's rather selfish of you, don't you think?
Piper is the audience surrogate here, being reminded that death is a part of life the same way that Prue had to be told in Death Takes a Halliwell.
Unless, of course, you think that death is pointless.
Well,
It's not, you know. Far from it.
I didn't expect to enjoy this scene as much as I did, but I just like the direction it brings Piper's character into.
Death is what forces people to live.
A major criticism of the later seasons is how the sisters became increasingly selfish in wanting normal lives, and bending the rules to suit their agenda, but this serves to put Piper back on track.
This is bigger than your sister, Piper.
She's reminded of a lesson she learned in Morality Bites, that breaking the small rules could bring her down a dark path in the end, and across all of Season 4 about the nature of loss and grief.
And for what? A single fleeting life?
She learns that both she and the Angel of Death had their own separate roles to play, and by the end of the episode, they seem to form a mutual respect. While she's temping as the Grim Reaper, she honours her role, even when it's clear she wishes otherwise.
Piper, do something.
I can't.
And we would see the Angel of Death's respect for her culminating in the next season, where he warns her that Leo will be on his list soon, and facilitates her changing the circumstances to take him off it.
Curious, I actually feel bad about it. No doubt a reflection about my knowing you.
This lesson about the importance of death and the impermanence of life will likewise inform Piper's decision at the end of the Avatar storyline, where she and her sisters realise what the cost of a utopia without conflict is, and choose to reset the world to what it was.
And given the choice of what we had and what you're offering, now we know what it is. We'll take our free will back any day.
So even if this appears to be a standard Demon of the Week episode, it still provides substantial character development for all the sisters.
This is going nowhere.
Where are you going?
I'm not in the mood to lose another sister.
But who is the real star of the show?
We have to save Harriet.
I've spoken at length about the horrible direction they took Phoebe's character during the 5th season, and she continued to be annoying in the 6th, but there were always glimmers of hope, and I just wanted Phoebe to give me a reason to love her again. This episode was it.
Why are you not listening to me? I'm trying to save you.
Because this isn't just about me.
The latter episodes of Season 6 had begun a course correction on her, where her powers were taken away as punishment for her selfishness, and this episode began her real redemption in my eyes.
Look, I don't want to die, but I'm not going to sit around and wait for an innocent to die either.
Season 6 had begun a storyline about her taking a sabbatical from her advice column, ostensibly to hype up Nick Lachey guest starring as a ghostwriter who becomes her love interest, But this episode reminds us that the reason Phoebe took the sabbatical is because she'd become disconnected from the people she was helping. As in her mind, if she's not helping people because she wants to, and it becomes just a box-checking situation, then she's not really helping them.
And I think that's why I needed to take that sabbatical. To remind myself of that.
You could also headcanon this to go alongside the controversial moment in High School Reunion where she and Paige allowed a human to die in favour of fixing a mess that Chris made, and her trivialising human life for her own wishes as a deciding factor behind the Council stripping her powers. So here, Phoebe is faced with the tangible reality that she will die in the process of stopping Cirque.
Once Phoebe realizes that she's better off here, where she's safe.
Her sisters want her to stay in magic school, where the demons can't get in, but her staying in hiding would potentially risk their next innocent's life. So what is Phoebe's choice?
When he focuses on me, you just focus on him.
She reminds us all that she's still the same girl whose first act as a witch was to put herself at risk to save 2 little boys, and selflessly faces the demon, even knowing that she has a good 50% chance of dying in the act. Of course, it doesn't quite work out that way.
In that case, I guess I'll just have to kill.
As an aside, it's stated that Cirque gains more power with every life he takes, and even killing Paige gives him the power to get into magic school past the protections. So he would indeed have enough power to kill a charmed one. But back to Phoebe.
Do you think I want to take her? I don't have a choice.
Well, yes you do, just don't take her. Take me instead.
Once again, she offers up her own life in exchange for Paige's.
It's not her fault.
I said I wanted a reason to love her again, and here we are.
Can't be happening, this can't be happening.
She's rewarded for her selflessness with the return of her premonitions.
I think I just had a premonition.
What? How?
And she then beats Cirque at his own game with changed circumstances, allowing her to exchange his soul for Paige's.
Check your list. He's not on it. We changed the circumstances.
The effectiveness of this was actually lost on me when I first watched all those years ago, but when I was rewatching for research on my initial video, I actually came close to cheering when Phoebe got her premonitions back. Her character development and derailment after how far she'd gotten from her roots was just beautiful.
Phoebe, this death thing might not be very real to you, but it is very real to me.
Piper, we've all seen it, and it's never stopped us before.
And speaking of beautiful...
You know that brown suede coat? You thought you lost it, but, it's in my closet.
Damn it, Rose. We, the audience, knew you were safe at this point, so why did you have to go give us such an unexpected tearjerker of a performance?
But you can't blame a girl for trying.
In fact, I've noticed that as an actress, she has a certain way with emotional scenes. The choices she makes are a little outside the box, and not how you'd expect a scene like this to be played, but it works.
And those earrings you liked, I borrowed them and never gave them back.
To all the people who claim that the later seasons didn't have great sisterly moments like the early ones, well, what do you call this?
You're stalling.
So, 6 Feet Under ends up being a good example of why I still love the later seasons of Charmed. I'm not going to claim it was the second coming of great TV or close to the emotional highs of some of the other episodes I've covered, but that doesn't mean it can't be great on its own merits.
It's much easier if you just let go.
A lot of shows stay on the air past their expiration date because they're essentially a payday for hundreds of people, and a lot of the time you can tell where the quality slips or everyone appears to be just phoning it in. But here, in its penultimate year, Charmed was still putting in the effort.
We've done more than almost anyone to protect your grand design.
Even with the network constantly lowering the budget, even if the actors were exhausted by now, there were episodes and storylines that felt like they were written with thought and care, and in an attempt to still provide fresh ideas, even after 7 years on the air.
You can't be taking her seriously.
Dude, you're dead. Start acting the part.
I've said before that Charmed was never about the sweeps week or the big, high-stakes battles and finales. Its strength was in these episodes that could bring the characters to interesting places, create unique scenarios that could only happen in this universe, or just entertaining us with whatever they had to offer. And in this case, mission accomplished. This episode was exactly what it needed to be.
Want anything?
No, just this.